at right now, what you have been working on is completing these guys, right? And these are your features, right? So last week you did an ear by doing drawings and doing that. You did an eye. Excuse me. What am I looking at? A nose. There's Tyson's nose. And there's that. And you did a mouth, right? You did them all close to double scale, at least a time and a half to double scale. And an eye. There we have the eye. Okay, so when you bring these in, we're going to fire these and get them to be bisquare like this, right? And then we can also put glazes on each of them so that you can try out which ones, you know, what kind of surface you like. Like here's one example. Maybe you want it to look something like this, or maybe you want it to look like the Celadon over there, right? So anyways, you get to see it. You get to decide what you like. All right, this week you're going to be you're finishing up your two last features. You're finishing up your mouth and your eyes, but you're also going to make a maquette. Actually, you're going to make two maquettes. So let's talk briefly about maquettes are. In your R&D this week, you've looked at busts, right? And these are examples of busts, right? So we have, you know, a nice bust of Mr. Carl. Your busts are going to be nowhere near this big, but we're ramping up so that you make a bust. The student made this gorgeous bust, right? Of herself. That's a self-portrait. And one of our instructors did this prize fighter here, which is pretty cool. And then we have others, right? So anyways, there's a zillion examples. And you have seen examples in this week's lecture on busts and maquettes. You saw a ton of examples, and part of your R&D is for you to go find out and find 8 different examples that you think are cool, that you might want to use, right? As your, you know, as your models. But what you're going to do is this. You're also going to, in your journal, find a front view, a side view, a side A and a side B. You're going to find a 3/4 view, and you're going to find A and B of 3/4, and you're going to try to find a back view, right? And that's what you're going to try to find so that you have basic models to go on for your sculpture. That doesn't mean that the sculpture has to look exactly like your model. In fact, it's not going to. It's not going to look like it. But you want to have at least 2 groupings like this. One model that you find a front, a side, a couple sides, and a couple 3/4, and if you can find a back too. 2 different models that way, so you can go back and forth and you can be comparing. What does that mean? Well, let me show you. Here's Mark's sketchbooks. So let's pull this out and we'll have a look here, right? So here we've got images of one person, and I see a front view and kind of a 3/4 view and a 3/4 view of the way. That's okay, but not all that helpful if I really wanted to make a sculpture based on her, right? Same thing here. You know, interesting person, that's kind of a frontal view, right? And these other ones are kind of helpful, but kind of not. It would help you if you said, well, I want to take some of these features and I want to mix them with some of these features and come up with my own hybrid, and that's perfectly fine. But you're not finding structural examples of one single person. Here's the same thing. Beautiful 3/4 view, 3/4 view. All of them are none of them are really frontal views, none of them are really profiles, but you might want to glean from pictures like this lots of things, right? Same thing here. I mean, you know, it's hard to find, so what you might have to do is punt and actually find a person that will sit still for you and pose for you so that you get some examples. So these are kind of a starting place, but let's look here and see what else we got. Okay, we got some other examples, but no real straight on front. Oh, there's a frontal view. We got it. We nailed it. Frontal view. No real profiles. Kind of a profile, but they're all like 3/4 views and voguing, right? So kind of helpful and kind of not. Kind of helpful and kind of not, right? Same thing. Frontal view, 3/4 view. Well, there's a profile, but darn it, she's got her whole like clothing in the way. That's not going to work. And here we go. All right, we got a profile. We got another profile from the other direction. We got a frontal view, really good one too. I just have to look closely because it's kind of not the, but man, this is pretty good. And there's kind of a 3/4 view. You could work with this and really build up the structure of a person, right? So that is cool, right? But even beyond that, what you can do is find a person whose features you think are really cool, like Wesley. And you can say, Wesley, would you stand for me? And then you can do all this kind of stuff. Like there's a 3/4 view one direction, a 3/4 view another direction. There is a complete frontal view, which is great. And this is the thing that's hard to find, but is really helpful, is seeing someone from the back so that you can see the shape of the head and all the rest of it, right? So that's really helpful. Now, think about this. We're talking about sculpting the human features of a human head, but anything you're going to sculpt, if you can get multiple views, it's going to be helpful. And here is one profile one direction and one profile the other direction. This is brilliant. That is all you'd need to really try to make a pretty good sculpture with this. And in coming attractions, I will show you how I use these photos to make a basic sculpture, which I'm still working on. And it doesn't look exactly like Wesley. That's not the point. But so what you're trying to figure out with the maquette is how is it going to sit? If it's too far forward, they should have made the bottom a little bit more flat. Probably should take sandpaper, something that works just like crazy like this. But anyways, there it is. And you want to make sure it's nice and flat and stable, and it's not going to tip over. Tipping over, not good, not good. All right, here's another one. Same way, just a neck. But this one is, ooh, more stable. But also, you want to see how it looks from the sides, right? And that is, right? There you go. Okay. So you get it, right? So your job is to take a ball of clay about the size of a baseball, and you're going to make 2 maquettes, right? 2 maquettes which are have different grounding mechanisms. And right now I'm going to take all these tools here, all these tools, and that clay, and I'll show you how to make at least, I'll sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. Coming attraction, coming attraction.